Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and with today's project that I want to share with you, it had something to do with the new skill called Reap. I really wanted to try and make Reap totems a thing, or basically I wanted to use Reap in a fashion that doesn't matter towards its damage over time, so the secondary portion of it, and just use it as an on-hit device. And I thought totems would be a really cool idea for that. After planning that out with totems for, I don't know, a couple hours or some shit, came to the realization that each totem would cost like 700 life to put down, and then if you have stacks of Reap going, the sort of buff for yourself, it would cost like 1500 life per totem. So it didn't seem very fun, and I did not want to do something based around such a heavy amount of life cost. So instead I decided to pivot to Arcanist brand Reap. And in this situation I've decided to make it a full cold Occultist. So it is a Fizz to cold Occultist. Occultist because it gives you plenty of negative cold res, some good extra curse synergy, an extra power charge, and good power charge scaling since we are using double void batteries, and that extra cold node that's also pretty defensive. So all in all, it's a pretty strong cold character, and we're trying to utilize Reap with Arcanist brand, which seems to be going absolutely tremendously so far. Reap with Spell Cascade on the Arcanist brands is really quite powerful and effective at the moment by the looks of it. Spell Cascade should basically just triple your output against pretty much any single target, since it looks like all of the Reap swings are going to be hitting. But the big problem with this little setup here is that Arcanist brand has a less multiplier on the area, and so does Spell Cascade. So overcoming the area is a bit of an issue, though with Awakened Spell Cascade and a bit of area investment, I think you'll still have full screen coverage and completely insane damage clear gameplay. That said, I'm not using an Awakened Spell Cascade because it is 13 exalts, and it will be like twice the cost of this entire character at this stage, so it seems a bit ridiculous, but we might look into it when we're ready to power up to our ultimate form. In any case, so far we are just cruising along trying to get the character figured out. It is quite difficult though. I'm having quite a few problems trying to get everything I want in the build, because a brand build is somewhat passive point heavy, especially if you're going power charges like I have. So we need power charges and power charge scaling, we need brand stuff, we need life, we need area, we need crit, we need cast speed, and getting all of it is pretty damn hard to do. So it's probably going to be a character with about 5k life in the end, if we maintain all of our damage and area. But that isn't too much of an issue since we do freeze everything, and the Occultist does have a few good defensive nodes, which in turn make enemies do 20% less damage, 20% reduced damage rather, and as well as that, you can freeze things quite potently. So up till this point, I think we may have died once, and it was just my fault for the most part. But it's been pretty smooth either way. I don't think this character should need much life, but maybe there's a better way to figure this thing out build-wise by eliminating some passives, or maybe going something like low life. I'm still trying to figure that one out, but it seems like there's a whole lot of promise in the Reap Arcanist brand universe. This is just one of the deaths randomly to it's Eerie Reflect. Not very random. I knew it was coming, but thought I'd try it anyway. So yeah, there's still plenty to figure out in the character. I think there is definitely a very powerful sort of interaction in Reap plus on hit. Just maybe Arcanist brand, maybe some cast on crit with Spell Cascade. There's definitely something there, and it's something I'm slowly going to chip away at. But with that, I can still show you what I've got so far, how we've got the character up till this point, and what I might potentially do in the future. So here's our character at the moment, level 82, called Brand New Reap Idea. Brand, Reap, New Idea, yep. And it is based around the Reap gem, as you can see here, Anomalous Reap, which gives just 60 extra crit, because we only care about the initial hit of the skill, not at all the secondary damage over time. Forget that part, doesn't exist, you can't convert it, it's meaningless, it's not going to do any damage in the way we're trying to scale. So it's just the initial hit, and it is pretty powerful since we can use Spell Cascade for it. There it is there. Spell Cascade gives you an extra 2 attacks, so it is quite a bit more powerful than not having it, and the totem version wouldn't be able to have Spell Cascade, so that is one very big advantage of going Arcanist brand in this situation. Currently, when you use Arcanist brand with the Reap, you do not get stacks of the blood charges. So throughout clear, throughout just mapping and even boss fights, you don't have stacks of the blood charge through the Arcanist brand, but that is a very large amount of damage, so we still try and make it happen through a separate Reap setup of Reap, Unleash, Spell Cascade, Power Charge on crit in the Helm, so that just on boss fights, as soon as you do this, you get insta stacks of your, what do you call it, Reap debuff, or buff rather, and that should be a huge single target increase and pretty easy to maintain. And as well as that, this setup should actually do some pretty decent damage of its own, something like, you know, a few million DPS or some shit, or just big initial burst. So there's that, and the current setup here is Anomalous Reap in Arcanist brand. We're using Woke Area just for clear, Power Charge on crit, and Spell Cascade. Now, Power Charge on crit has nothing to do with the, you know, getting power charges on crit. It is strictly for the 4% more damage per power charge. We already get, you know, power charges in many different places, and this is just for the 4% more since we have 10 power charges on this build. Now, we are utilizing that through Void Battery. Void Batteries give you 1 max power charge and then a bunch of extra spell damage per power charge to overcome the 80 reduced damage. So you have 1 here, 1 here. You have 1 additional from the Occultist, so there's also 6 area and 6 damage per power charge there. We get all the power charges on the tree, 1, 2, and 3. And then we also get power charge through using a Warlord just helmet with the max power charge roll. It's pretty rare roll, so I just alterationed until I got that, and then just left it at this of a helm so far. Can obviously make something a bit better. We can Woke Orb. I'm considering Awaken Orbining the +1 power charge with a Shaper Hypothermia, just so they can have a 5 link on this Reap, though I'm not yet sure how much damage this is going to be pulling off. If it's very substantial in the end, then yeah, I might get that 5th link happening there. So that's it. 10 power charges. We are scaling through the Occultist to get all of that extra power charge juice as well. All of these get so much more potent through that. There will also be a crafted ring here with 6% increased spell damage per power charge as just an implicit, very cheap implicit base. Plenty of those rolling around. And then on top of that, we've also got High Templar Dominus through the Militant Faith in this area with a bit of ally resist, bit of brand damage, and that gives us 3% more spell damage per power charge. And it means we can't really generate frenzies, but I'm going to try and get frenzies through minimum frenzies either way, if that's something necessary. 10,000, what a nerd. Anyway, so a lot of people do Badge of the Brotherhood instead, and that's completely viable as well, but you know, I don't really want to make it too difficult to build now or in the future, so no Badge of the Brotherhood in this build. Not even sure it's strictly better if we're using the Dominus thing. And currently I've just Woke Orbed a +1 Fizz and a 16% extra cold, well, it's 14% extra cold, so Redeemer and Warlord Amulet together to generate this. It's not that good without the crit multi, so I might still just do a pure Fizz's extra cold and then a crit multi amulet, one that is just pretty simple instead of this, but currently that's what I'm rolling with. One of the other interesting items is Replica Inia's Epiphany. So we get 5% damage per power charge, so that's 50% damage, 0.5 regen, so 5% regen, and then 5% movement speed per charge, so that's 50% movement speed. Once we're all fully stacked, and the Occultist can get us stacked manually, though it does take a bit of time, we got a lot of area, a lot of damage, a lot of crit multi, all of that shit coming from our power charges. And we can still go deeper with Cluster Jewels, though I don't currently have that built in. I was definitely thinking about a little bit of a respec into some cluster action so that we can get something like Vast Power, 3% area per power charge. And as well as that, maybe try out Holy Conquest and Brand Loyalty. But I'm not sure it's super necessary on a build like this, but I think it's going to be something I have to, at some point, test at the very least. So that's what we've got so far. Just for conversion at the moment is Grim Sorrow. These have early weakness on hit. And then a Watcher Eye. My god, they're going off. And then a Watcher Eye that does fizz damage converted to cold. So yeah, unless we've got a lot of cold scaling, it's not that worth converting. You can just go pure freaking fizz damage if you want, for the sake of argument. But hopefully by the end we've got a lot of decent cold scaling and some penetration and stuff. And as I said, the Occultist here has -20 cold, and then the 15 more cold. And then things get reduced damage here, things get reduced damage here. But yeah, hopefully it all works out to make cold stacking a bit worth. I kind of just wanted to do cold because it made sense with a taste of hate, with some hatred, stuff like that. And the Occultist Sanity, which does have some good power charge scaling. Though, like I said, you really don't have to do anything particularly just purely cold base. You could possibly do a Chieftain with like fizz to fire stuff. Maybe even non-crit, and just take it a completely different route. I think the anomalous, not the anomalous, just a Reap plus Arcanist brand, kind of an interesting interaction. There is just a bit of a problem with Arcanist brand though, that it's got that delay before it hits, so you do have to do a lot of running around and avoiding shit before your damage kicks in a lot of the time, so careful with that. Otherwise, I've got Assassin Mark Ring that I rolled on the previous character, just using caster rerolls until something good happened, and something pretty good did happen. Belt with reduced flasks, and that's it for now. Using Hatred, Herald of Ice, Second Wind, Flame Dash, Arcane Surge. Over here we got Orb of Storms, Hex Touch, Frostbite, and Ellie Prolif. So that is a lot of our survivability, just dropping Orb of Storms all the time, and then they just like freeze everything. And it also gives us a curse on hit. So that's where I get one curse, another curse, and another curse. So that's 3 curses at the moment. And I think that's all I need to say about the build for the time being. If you're going to try and play a brand build, you do kind of have to go up to here as soon as possible. That's where you start getting single target from, because you can then have 2 brands damaging an enemy instead of just 1. Still plenty to figure out, I think. Hopefully I've got some good news for you in the next video about the end game of the character. The DPS looks like it should be very big, like 10 to 20 million or some shit, and brand playstyles are very safe on boss fights in general, because you just drop your brands and run around in circles, avoiding shit as best as you can. So I'm hoping for big things. It's just a bit of a difficult character to figure out, to get everything into and see what you need to prioritize. But here's hoping we can do it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.